We were before Flint. We were doing boil acts way back then.
You've been dealing with boil advisors
for a while. For a while. I could go back till at least 2012.
So why are we boiling water? The water's undrinkable.
Boiling water might help, but it won't make lead go away. In Benton Harbor in southwest Michigan, Nathan Smith smelled trouble a decade ago.
I started probably 2011. That's when I stopped drinking the water.
Okay, and why? What was it about it?
It was a smell. It was an odor. It was something wrong. The dangerous part, it was clear.
Now bottled water's a way of life. High lead levels hiding in plain sight for 3 years. Big headlines the past 2 months.
It's really unimaginable that you could live with, not just the stress of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the stress of having unsafe drinking water in your home on top of that, and not knowing when you're going to get safe drinking water in your home.
With that in mind, in September, Nick Leonard's Great Lakes Environmental Law Center joined other groups to submit a petition demanding government action.
And the severity of it, we were seeing homes as high as nearly 900 parts per billion, which is nearly 60 times the lead action level. We thought that the residents weren't getting the response that they deserved, and many were just completely unaware that there was any issue with their drinking water.
Our One Detroit partner, Great Lakes Now, is working with MLive's Garret Ellison.
Since October 6th, it's been a pretty high-profile response. It's been a lot of news crews in Benton Harbor, been a lot of questions being asked, and that's a status that's going to probably continue for quite a while.
Getting everyone on the same page has been a challenge.
I didn't get an alert on my phone. I heard some people got an alert on their phones, but I never did get one. I don't know why.
When did you find out about the lead problem with the water?
Listening over TV.
Communication issues, that distrust of government, shades of Flint here in Benton Harbor, another majority black city that had been ruled by an emergency manager. The water plant already had its troubles. Then lead joined the mix. Not a surprise to health officials.
There was some water distribution, in the past few years, but not at the levels that are happening now. Now the governor has said she's going to send 20 semi-trucks full of 30,000 cases of water every week.
Francis Kai-Hwa Wang's part of the PBS NewsHour team covering the crisis.
Well, you see the sign when you drive to Chicago, but tell me about Benton Harbor.
Yeah, so Benton Harbor used to be a booming town with manufacturing, and there started to be more and more of a black community that came to work in the factories and work in manufacturing.
White flight shrank the tax base, then a downward spiral.
The population of the city is half the size it was in 1960.
Now less than 10,000, one more Rust Belt town like Flint, though much smaller. How does this compare to Flint? Is it a similar situation, or facts are different here?
I think there's some similarities and there's some differences. There was a specific event that led to high levels of lead in Flint's drinking water, and it was the switch in water source without changing the corrosion control treatment to match the change in water chemistry that resulted from that switch. In Benton Harbor, we don't really have that. There was no sort of discrete act that caused the high lead levels in Benton Harbor. It's a community with a lot of lead service lines, and it's a community that wasn't using corrosion control treatment, which was allowable under our regulations.
Benton Harbor would implement corrosion control, but that didn't solve the problem.
It's more just a case of infrastructure that was deteriorating from decades of disinvestment, and eventually reached essentially a breaking point.
Lead testing showed Benton Harbor overall at 24 parts per billion.
The thing is that when it hits 15 parts per billion of lead in the water, that's when they're legally required to do something, right? Before that, they're not required to do anything by law, but as a lot of the activists are saying, legal does not mean safe, because all the doctors, the medical community will say no amount of lead is safe.
Benton Harbor's not alone. Elevated levels found in Hamtramck, St. Clair Shores, a lot of other places too. The feds have tossed in about $5 million of the $30 million needed for Benton Harbor.
At the same time, the governor was able to get $10 million for Benton Harbor to replace the pipes. She had applied for $20 million, but the legislature only approved $10 million. So now Benton Harbor has about $15 million.
The rest may be federal infrastructure money.
The state of Michigan is pledging to get all of Benton Harbor's lead service lines dug up out of the ground and replaced by April 2023. That's essentially 18 months from now. That's a tall order. And, it remains to be seen if that can actually be done.
Back on the water line, MLive's Garret Ellison chats with resident Anthony Bell.
I don't believe they're going to fix the water. I'm just being honest. I really don't. Only way they're going to fix the water if they get pressure.
Bell's thinking a mass protest in Lansing is in order.
How did this happen in Michigan, in the place where we promised, I think everybody promised, it's not going to happen again. This isn't going to be the last sort of flood crisis that we see. In the future, we need to make sure that we're responding better and making sure that we're listening to residents and making sure that they have clean drinking water.